Patrick Cripps, welcome back to the Dylan Friends podcast. My friends, an honour, it's a pleasure. It's been about 2 years since you featured episode 8, long time ago. Can you remember?
I can. It was with the doctor.
Yes.
Doc. No, it's a pleasure being on the number one podcast in the nation, Bucker Boy.
We love that, Patrick, and we love your support. And we know you've been a big supporter of the show for a long time, so it's a pleasure to have you back. And geez, mate, the fans of the show, and should I say the fans of yours, have been crying out for this. They can't get enough. They want to know more, and I know they're excited for this.
Yeah, well, to be honest, Buck, I do listen to your podcasts, and I'm quite impressed with the following you got. I reckon you've done an amazing job, so just thought I'd pump your tyres up the start. But I'm interested to have a chat with you and hopefully give a few interested people something into the life of what I do and see if they're interested or not.
Mate, they are definitely interested. And you're a busy man. Now, a lot of people, as we said before, a lot of people know you as a footballer, the captain of Carlton. But Nova Radio these days, studying, investing, TikTok. What else is...
Cryptok, mate.
What else has been going on? Have I summed it up, or is there anything else we don't know about you at the present stage?
No, that's pretty much it. I like to keep busy. Always, like I said before, trying to find ways to grow us on field, off field. Currently studying agribusiness, which is basically ag science cross business. So I'll finish that by May. So that's been really good. It's sort of something I've chipped away at as I've played footy. And just other things, like I enjoy investing. I don't know a heap about it, but I did actually a bit of a work placement with Stu K. He works at a Scala Partner. He's a great Carlton man, and he's been a really good sort of mentor for me recently over in the finance space. I really enjoyed that. I did that over the summer. Then the old Cryptok, that definitely got a bit more publicity than I was asking for. I was just trying to have a bit of fun with the missus and keep her happy. And all of a sudden I'm playing golf and I'll get about 100 messages from mates back home saying, I think you've got welded hips, big fella.
Yeah, that was horrific. I must say that was really bad. Mate, I want to go back to a few of the things probably where we left off last time. Okay, the show's changed now, but I want to go back because there's things that I've realised. Prior to your draft, okay, you're taking pick 13. The pick before you and the pick after you, I think was Giants and Richmond, have both played now in grand finals and premierships. I don't want to start this on a negative note because it's not, because there's a lot of time left. How does that sit with you now, thinking, fuck, like if I went one before, one after, I could have been a premiership player per se? Yeah,
it's sort of that... I don't know if you look at like a sliding doors moment, but like even the one before, the Richmond one was Dom Shea, the Eagles. He's probably kicked the greatest goal of all time in the grand final. But I don't really look into that because I know you can look in hypotheticals all the time, but it's just, I know it's not where you're at the moment. And I know I've always seen, although I've come to the club at a really difficult time, I really enjoyed the challenge of it. Not gonna lie, there's been some times where you're really, probably times through, I know, probably all the years where you're really, you're just trying to find motivation and keep it going. And especially 2018, when we was getting pumped every week, only won 2 games, that really tested, I suppose, your mental sort of resolve. But I think that's the beauty of where the group is at now. We've been through a lot of hard times, and we've all tried to stick together and grow as a group and create a culture where everyone comes and they can be themselves and get better as a person, as a player. And I feel like now we're in a really strong position, I suppose, to really climb up the ladder and have a lot of fun with the group we've sort of built around. And I'm never one to actually go that path. And I'm really excited sort of the next, 6 to 8 years of what we've created, where that will go. And sort of like to think I'm coming into the years now where you're going to play your best footy at sort of 26 to 30. And we've got a good mix of young and old now on the list. We've got a lot of young talent coming through, about 21 to 23 that are really impressive and that they're taking the game to the next level. Then you got older guys like Jonesy, Ed, Murph, even Levi. So you got a good mix of sort of age demographics. So look, it is what it is, and you sort of want to create your own sort of path now.
100%, man. And I think it means more. Not that it doesn't mean more getting it early, but I think when you really have to fight for it, it is a little bit sweeter. talking about that list sort of makeup now, because it's something that I didn't really realise what a list was like until I went to the Giants, and you can sort of compare.
Yeah.
And you look at where Carlton's at now, and obviously, you know, my heart lies with Carlton and the Giants, but a special part of me is with Carlton. And you look at it, you know, you've got the good players now, you've got those young guys, but I think most importantly, the thing that I think made the Giants so good was still those really like gritty role players.
Yeah.
Even looking at Jacob Wiedering's BNF speech the other night, he said to Jonesy, like, I wouldn't have won this without you. Now, that's very nice in itself, but in all seriousness, like, how important are those guys now? Like, Jonesy doesn't get the credit he deserves. I think I've spoken about him on the show before, but I remember when I was there, he signed a 3-year deal playing as a forward. He could not get a game. They pretty much said to him, mate, go play backline, get out of the way because we've got Harry Mackay coming through and you're chewing up his space. He went back, ended up becoming like 10 best on grounds in a row playing fullback, centre half back, fought his way back into another 3-year deal, and now he's one of the most important players in the team. Like, it's one of the most underrated stories in football, I think, like in present time.
It's one of the best stories. Like, and if you actually get him to explain the full detail of where he was at, where his mindset went, and then where he is now and how he sort of bounced out of it, you can't help but smile. But you also have such appreciation for the type of person he is to see where he is now, and still, and he's so grateful for everything. You know what his humour's like. He's one of the funniest guys going around, like quotes every movie, you know what I mean? Like walking around, just random movie quotes. What I love about him, and it sort of goes back to my point before, is he can be the nicest guy off the field, so funny, and like just give time to everyone. But he turns on the footy.
He's scary.
He's scary. Like, he's kamikaze. He's so courageous, and I love Weeder's speech for that reason. And like, Weeder's was unbelievable this year. Like, if you're a Carlton supporter, you'd appreciate his year so much more. He was so good for us. But I love how he said, you know, I couldn't do it without you. And that's what team sport's all about. You know what I mean? Like, although Weeder's had an awesome year, it's having a team around you that makes you better, and I suppose happy for each other's success. And I feel like we've got that right now. And I suppose back to Jonesy, how much we rate him internally. He won our MVB, which we call our most valuable, sort of like our players player. Mm-hmm. So he actually won that this year, which we sort of, as a club, we put that on the same sort of pedestal as the BNF. And I suppose that, like you said, the role players, like you look at someone like Ed Curnow, like just got such an appreciation for him, and he just gets the job done every week. Lockie Plowman. And then you talk about the mix of sort of young and old. Like, you got a guy like Mark Murphy, who I know obviously you know really well, and he's an absolute legend of a bloke. But for someone like myself and Doc going through the leadership journey and having him to bounce off, and then even this year to see his leadership throughout the connecting young guys. He's worked really close with Zach Fisher, Liam Stocker, and guys like that. That's the importance of, I suppose, the list demographics, having a bit of a mix of young and old, and still having wise heads around you. Yeah,
definitely. I think it's all sort of coming up and like boiling up. I know, you know, people will say, they'll laugh and say that that's been going for years, but internally now you actually can see that there is some really strong things starting to form. While we're on the topic as well, I want to talk about Zach Williams. Now, I've pumped him up enough externally, but I want to say it on now. Besides yourself, one of the best players I've ever played with. Can you give us a bit of a rundown of probably the impact that you feel that maybe Zach and Saad can have this year together? Obviously playing full halfback, they can play up on the wing, but also they can release Sam Doherty as well.
Yeah.
How have those guys been coming in, and how do you feel that they can go this year?
Yeah, it's a funny one. I think if you look at attacking halfbackers, if you had to ask us at the start of last year, who's the two attacking halfbackers you'd want in the comp, you'd probably say Saad and Zach Williams, in terms of just more that chaos and creativity. Yeah. Like, I think Doc's a bit different to him. He's just so smart and reads the game so well, and everything's calculated. They just get the ball and they just make it up. So I think what we lacked last year is those type of players, that real speed and creativity. Very different ends. Like, they play very similar, but very different sort of people in a good way. And Zachy surprised me. Like, he's been training with the midfield. He's bloody tough and he's hard at it. Which I think everyone just appreciates, like, watching from afar, like, how good his skill was off halfback and his dash. But even going forward, like, he's kicking goals, and he's one of those players that, like, At training, he won't stand out. Then you get to match play and you're like,
Yeah.
far out, he can play.
Yeah.
Sardi's just, and then you got Sardi, he just runs. Like, it looks like he's got better to get caught. Like, do you know how Yaz, when
Yes.
he just he just runs, looks like he's in second gear, and someone comes up, so he looks behind him.
And just keeps going.
Goes to third. Meanwhile, I'm in sixth and still going backwards from him. Yeah, so, no, they both had a massive impact, and I'm pretty excited. Like, we've got a game against... basically any game this year, but we got a game against Oppo coming up, and I'm just excited to see how much their creativity makes our team better.
And I think one thing that I know that you love and you pride yourself on is stepping up in big games. Just knowing Zach and what he's done, something really stands out from him, because that's where you get judged on the big stage, is when he did his Achilles, I think it was in 2019, he came back and had literally not played a game the whole year. He played one game in the NEFL, and I think he would have had probably like 70 touches, but that doesn't say much. I think I had about 4. And then after that, he went straight in and played a preliminary final against the Swans at the SCG. The bloke had about 10 tackles, played midfield, 30 touches, and you and I aren't probably breaking news here, but he's not the most fittest guy. He's not the guy that's going to win a 2K time trial. You can sort of think, geez, he's this bloke, what's going on here? But as soon as he gets into the game, it's scary what he does, and he plays well in big games.
Yeah, I was actually at that game, the prelim, and I remember thinking, just how good he was at that time. And like you said, big games where it counts. But yeah, no, you're right. He's not a 2K specialist, but hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Neither were you, mate. Last bit on Carlton, I suppose, and we have touched on it a bit. But when is that stage now? It's because I'm obviously friends with a lot of you guys, but I'm also now not in the game, so I can understand what it's like as a supporter, and obviously players feel the frustration, supporters feel the frustration. But do you think now, like, it actually is building to something that's going to be pretty special? Yeah,
like I believe that, but I'm also one not to proof's in the pudding. You know what I mean? Like, as much as you chat, and it's like anything. Like, a lot of people say they're going to do things, but until you actually do it, you can't actually judge. So. From what I've seen and the work we've done and the group we've got, I feel like we've got a really self-driven group that's working really hard, and it's probably the most impressed I've been this pre-season with the way guys returned. They've got better. I think there's more pressure for spots, which is making people better. Yeah. Group's close, just even the hub last year, mate, it's really close. So I feel like we're in a really good position to attack the year, and that's what excites me. But like I said before, like, we'll be judged on how we play, and I'm really confident we're going to play well.
And you see that now too. I think you've got to take confidence out of the last few years. Like Western Bulldogs, for example, come from nothing, get up, straight up to finals. Richmond the same. They were literally bottomed out, turn the club around. It actually doesn't take long. But in saying that, it takes a long time, but the change can be quick in terms of it can take a long time to build those fundamentals or, the culture, whatever it is. But then the difference from, 16th to 4th can actually be quite quick.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. And once you get up there, you want to stay up there. And that's where you have appreciation for teams like, I suppose, Geelong, Richmond at the moment, Brisbane the last few years, Eagles. Like, their clubs have stayed up there, and we want to be one of those clubs. And that's when you get the respect of the whole competition is everywhere you rock up, and your worst is still a chance to win the game, which is where we want to get to.
Definitely. Mate, let's talk about you now. This show's about you. Now, one thing that I'm really excited about that you're doing, and I think this can take you to another level if there even is one, but you're studying psychology. Talk me through this. How did this come about?
Yeah, so I've sort of, like I said before, like I've had the last few years, I've learned a lot about myself, and through a lot of sort of self-discovery things, and you're trying to find ways to make yourself better. You sort of start finding out what your passions are, and I've got a real big passion just for, I suppose, getting the best out of myself, but also helping others be their best. And through that, I just sort of realised the importance of the, I suppose, the brain and the psychology of everything, and that's just in life or in sport. And so basically once I finish this, my degree in ag business, I'm going to do a postgrad in psychology. Basically just get a more understanding. But I've just started reading a fair few books about it. Did an online course that really made me learn a lot about myself. And from that, like, a lot of this happened last year and the year before, but last year, like, a lot of people asked me, like, oh, you must have had a tough year. And I actually say to them, to be honest, last year was probably the best year of my life. And they always say, oh, geez, must have been tough going to the hub. But, like, I wanted to put in perspective, like I was in a hub, still had a job, playing footy around my mates the whole time while everyone else in Melbourne was in lockdown. So I had a different appreciation for what we're doing. But it also made me realise what's really important in life. And when I went back home, like you got your friends, your family, your health, all this COVID stuff being set up, but also being passionate about what you want to do. So that sort of took me on a journey of sort of, I suppose, learning a lot about myself. And I suppose that's what I did last year. I just learned a lot about myself, and now I've got a really good understanding of who I am as a person and what I want to do going forward, which is, I think, it's going to help my footy as well, just in terms of I've got passions outside of footy, which is I'm really enjoying.
Was there a moment that sparked this, or was it just a gradual sort of thing? Was there a time when you were like, "No, fuck, I'm not enjoying this. Maybe you weren't as happy as what you were playing footy," or was it just a gradual learning? And obviously you have mindfulness coaches and psychologists at the club. Was there a specific thing that sort of triggered the learning of it?
Yeah, I probably reflected a lot. I like to reflect a lot on sort of experiences, and I think like 2018, 2019, I was probably playing my best footy, but probably wasn't my happiest, I don't think. And just a lot of stuff. Like I look back now, things I weren't getting right, like my sleep, diet, looking after myself, having hobbies outside of footy, putting so much pressure on myself to play well. And I credit Andrew Russell a lot when he came in. He taught me a lot about the sort of just the sort of wellbeing space, sleep, and the importance of all things. But he's someone, he's a bit of a guru in his field. He knows so much. So I just picked his brains a lot, and he sort of, I sort of went going down that path, and I just saw the impact he had on people, and his ability to, I suppose, be there as a, basically he tries to help people get better, and I really enjoyed that. And so from that I just kept reflecting. It was actually interesting. It's a really good story. You'll like this one. But I was back home the break, and Loza, our massage therapist, like she's an absolute legend.
She's a superstar. Shout out to Loza.
Yeah, Loza, you're a legend if you're listening in. But she's like one of the best masseuses I've ever had. But we always chat about things, and she sent me this podcast, and it was on. It was about Pete Carroll. So I listened to it, and just like this really inspired me, the podcast. And anyway, from that, I realised he had an online course with a high performance psychologist I already followed on Twitter. And from that, I just did a bit of research into it, and then I ended up doing this course, which is called Compete to Create. And basically, it's a self-discovery high performance online course. And I was like, I'll give it a crack. Like, I've got nothing to lose. I'm in a bit of lockdown. And from that, mate, like that's where I learned so much about myself and this high performance space. I was like, I'm so intrigued in this.
So what's in this? What's in this course? Like, what does it sort of teach you?
Basically,
compete to create.
Yeah. It teaches you really a lot of self-discovery. So you do so much reflection on who you are as a person and why you think a certain way. You sort of peels back your values. And then basically you come up with a bit of philosophy and a vision for yourself of where you want to go. And then after that, it builds on a bit of wellbeing stuff, and then real high performance mindset principles. Basically, it's to get the best out of yourself. And I was doing, mate. And like, when you're doing uni, sometimes you're like, it's like a chore. This was like, I was coming home from training and I was buzzing to do it. Yeah. And that's when I started to realise, like, geez, I found a bit of a passion here. And then you combine that like with, I suppose, the leadership space of the club, like, because we've had so much turnover, we've got so many young guys, like, it just really resonated with me how much enjoyment I get out of helping these young guys achieve their goals and helping them get there. Like, and I always say this, but after a game, when you're working with a young guy and you win and you see them play well and the smile they get, like that's the best feeling. Like, that's better than yourself playing well, because you know how much, how happy they are, and they're really starting to find themselves. So yeah, just all that stuff sort of made me reflect and be like, yeah, this is a bit of a passion of mine, and something I'm going to keep sort of growing. I
love it, man. And something that resonated with me just then is helping other people and like communicating with other people, sharing the same interests as other people. Like with this podcast, for example, I get the pleasure of having guests like yourself on that have like incredible stories that I can learn something from. And when I listen to that, I'm learning that, but then I'm then talking to someone else and being like, oh, I learned this from this person. And then other people are listening to that, and then they can learn from it. So in a way, the best part of the show for me sometimes is when someone will message me being like, fuck, I listened to this episode with Patrick Cripps, this course, Compete to Create. I went and did it. Fuck, that was the best thing in the world. And that's sort of a similar feeling I can imagine to what you would get helping out these young people. The ability to sort of be able to pass messages on, to them and then see them use them is, it's unforgettable.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I also look at it when I first got the club and the people that really helped me as well. And you have an appreciation for the guys that really helped you get there. And I just remember my first few years at the club, and certain moments just stick out. Like Michael Jamison was so good to me off field and just been a mentor. Like Juddy's influence on me was huge. I've talked about Murph before, but his influence on me. So you had so many different influences. And then, like you said, you get so much knowledge from people, and it's like, well, if this is making me better, how do I share it? And I think that's the beauty of podcasts, like the beauty of your podcast and beauty of a lot of podcasts. Basically, it's people telling stories to help other people get better. And that's why I like listen to podcasts, read books, is like basically people have learned things, they've got this knowledge and they want to share that to other people to help them get better, which I find really interesting.
I love it. One thing I've picked up lately, and I'm sure you'd be all over this, is in terms of mentors, right? Something I've picked up massively of late is a mentor doesn't have to be someone that teaches you what to do or tells you something that you can learn from. You can actually pick up mentors that teach you what not to do.
Yeah.
So like I've probably my whole life thought, I need someone to show me how to do this. I need someone to show me how to do that. And then thought, fuck, there's people in my life that are actually mentors, but they're not that they've done anything wrong by me, but you can actually learn like, fuck, they did this. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Have you had situations like that?
Well, yeah, I think you see situations and you, once you start, like you said, you're working out what you want to be, you can see, and might not be direct contact with you, but you can see what other people do and you're like, well, that's not something I want to do or be portrayed as. So, mentoring, it's an interesting one. And I think it's just good to keep meeting people, like you said, and just asking questions and being curious about, their story and how they got the best out of themselves. Because the more, like you said, you hear different people's stories and there's something you might grab from me, like, I really like that. I'm gonna like learn more about that. Or you just start piecing the puzzle together. I reckon the more people you talk to and you learn new stuff.
You mentioned before reading books is a big one. What have you got for us in that space? We love a book recommendation on this show. We can't say we read them all, but we do love book recommendations.
Yeah, I love like a lot of self-help books. I'm not
Which ones?
Non-fiction.
You would have read Grit then, because that was a Andrew Russell recommendation.
Yeah, I've got that on my to-do list.
Okay.
I just finished 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Okay.
That was really good. That's a really good self-help book. True North. That's a Ben Crowe one. That's a leadership book. I just read The Happiest Man Alive.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about it.
Yeah,
Is that good?
That was good. That's a really easy read. That was really good. It's basically just have an appreciation for what they went through, but how you can, I suppose, find gratitude and find purpose in the smallest things in life. And I think that's really important, especially what I suppose the whole world's gone through in the last year. What's the other? The Resilience Project.
Yeah.
I find that's a really good story. And if you're not a big reader, that's one recommendation I'd have for a really easy read. And you just read that book and you actually just smile. So that'd be one that I'd really suggest.
That's been a big one for me as well. I think a lot of people. We had Hugh on the show last year, and his story is it's so relatable. And I think that I love people that tell their story but understand that it's not always going to be easy. I think one thing that Hugh does really well, and if you haven't read the Resilience Project, about gratitude, basically.
Yeah.
And with a lot of self-help books, it's sort of like, do this and you'll live this enlightened life, but you've got to stick to this path.
Yeah.
I love people that understand that it's not just a linear path. Like you can be grateful, then you can be ungrateful, but you can go grateful again. Same as Emma Murray. We had her on the show the other day, and she's probably one of my favourite podcasts I've ever done, just because of the fact that she gave so much incredible information, but said, look, at the end of the day, you're going to have ups and downs, and you're not going to be the most grateful person every day of the week, but it's about getting back to that as quick as you can.
Yeah.
But I want to talk to you about a moment, and I hope that you remember this, and I'm sure you will, because it was a fair game. But I feel like from chatting to some of your friends, and especially before you mentioned 2018, 2019, that time when you might not have been enjoying footy as much as you could have, there was a game at the end of the year, and around this time you were just cooked, mentally exhausted, you were absolutely stuffed. And from good authority, that was a space you were in. The next day, you went out and had 39 kick 4 in probably one of your best games you ever played. From all reports, that was probably a big turning point to you to realise how important all this stuff was.
Yeah, no, it's spot on. Yeah, I've told the story to a few people and they laugh. They're like, "Oh, you couldn't have been feeling bad." But honestly, I was so close to pulling out that week. I just wasn't in a good space mentally. It's probably the 6 weeks lead up of just, I don't know, it's like, I think in that space we'd won 3 games out of 44. You're trying to give so much and just you want to win basically. And that was the week that Bolts got fired and I had a really good relationship with Bolts. It was a tough week, but I was just mentally cooked. And I remember like I had no energy. I'd come home, I was lethargic. My partner Mon was just like, you're just not yourself at the moment, but I couldn't see it. Like when you're in a bit of a hole like that, you just don't see it, you're just knackered. And I remember going to Andrew Russell, Jack, and on Thursday I said, mate, I don't think I can play. And he goes, just give it another few days, you see how it goes. And like had my head in the hands. I couldn't even look him in the eye. I was just like nearly a broken human. Anyway, I went around Bainey's house. He was my manager the night after just for a feed. And I remember sitting on his bench and he's like, "Are you pumped for tomorrow?" I was like, "Mate, I just don't think I can do it, eh?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" Like, I just don't think I can play tomorrow. And I was really close to pulling out. And like, I'm not putting any mayo on this story at all. But yeah, the next day I sort of woke up and I'm like, all right, I'm a leader of this footy club. It's been a big change. How I show up is going to be a reflection of the group. And I remember even driving to the game, it was at Etihad, and I was cooked in the car, but I was like, all right, made a thing to myself, all right, when I go to the change rooms, I'm going to be up and about, going to have energy, and I'm just going to have fun playing today. And mate, it was a weird one. Like I was so mentally cooked, and I just had one of those games where I don't know how to explain it. You get into that state where you just happens. And it was just one of my happiest moments of footy. Not because I played well. It was more just, I don't know, the group like was just so pumped because we hadn't won much. Like it was just a special day. I remember seeing the fans just smiling in the rooms. Like everyone was smiling. And then that night we actually went back to the club and we sat around a fire and had a few beers and everyone just had a chat, and it was just a real moment that I'll never forget where it's just everyone bonds, and that's what footy's all about. I know you work so hard throughout the week, and you said it before, like you got to have some fun, and I really enjoy getting around everyone, having a beer after a game and just relaxing, and it was an awesome day. And then even after that, mate, that next week I was knackered. We had the bye the week. No, we played the Bulldogs and we had the bye the week after, and I asked for a bit extra time just so I was cool. Went back to the farm. Well, I was sleeping 12 hours a night back on the farm. I just absolutely knackered. I actually broke my toe in that game. So I played the Bulldogs the week after, got stepped on again, then I missed 3 weeks with a broken toe. So, a lot happened at that time. But it sort of gave me a real appreciation for the power of the mind, and no matter what you're going through, that self-talk, and you can get yourself in a state of mind of like you can perform. And like you said before, it really opened up that space of like, all right, how can I then get better through sort of stuff with the mind, show the importance to guys around with the mind, but then also not from a performance point of view, but just the well-being side of like, you got your physical health, you got your mental health, and making sure you're looking after. And at the time I didn't know how much I was struggling, but people around me saw it. And that's, I suppose you go even deeper. It's like with the mental health side, you never know what people are going through. And a lot of people would experience that in the last sort of 9 months, but just ring a mate and just ask, you know what I mean? Because, and they might not, like straight away, they might not open up. If you keep probe, and then all of a sudden they might just open up to you. So, I probably dribbled on a bit long there. But,
no, mate, I was immersed in that. It was fantastic. And you couldn't have answered it better. I never had that scenario play out in my mind, but I totally understand and I get it, because I think looking at it now, going forward, and as you said, that would give you so much confidence knowing that no matter how you feel going into games, you can still perform. And I think, I'm sure you would remember this, but one thing I loved about Bolts, and I actually feel like Bolts was one of the best coaches I played under, and I've said that a lot, but he used to say this thing as soon as he got to the club, and he'd be like, we are training every day to go into a grand final where it's 30 degrees, you're injured, and you're going into each quarter time break 1 point down. So like straight away, it was like you're thinking about the hardest day of your life, and it's going to be the hardest day of your life. You know how hard it's going to be, but when you get there, it'll probably be easier. And I remember thinking like that. I was like, fuck, why is he making this sound so hard? Like, shouldn't it be enjoyable? Like, get there, having fun at the grand final. But he was setting it up as the worst day of your life, because when you get there and it's not as bad as what you think it's going to be, it's actually easier.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the mental stuff, like I'm the same. I think Bolts did so much good for our club, and from where he took it to where it was at the end, like the standards he set, and as you would know, it was a huge change, a shift when he did rock up, and I suppose the discipline, the standards really increased dramatically. But yeah, like all that stuff, just like he's just tapping into the mind, and it's like imagery or things like that, like they say your brain doesn't know. If you're thinking about something, your brain actually doesn't know if it's real or not. So so if you're picturing yourself being there in that moment, and then when that day does come, you're not overawed by it. You're like, I've been here before, I know what to do. It's interesting, isn't it? Like it's crazy when you think about it.
He was massively into that space, and I think that's where I grew a bit of a love for it, and didn't understand how powerful it was until you really put all your eggs in that basket. Because like you said, you've got to believe what you're doing. Mate, you said you're passionate about this. We can obviously pick up on that. After study area, is there something that you want to get into? Have you thought about sort of sides in this space that you want to do?
Yeah, there is. And I'm sort of, as I'm learning, I'm sort of more ideas are going through my mind. I'd love to, basically, I know I want to help people get better. So in my mind, I'm like, well, how can I help share the knowledge that I've learned and have an impact on people around me? And that might not be directly, that might be creating a course or running a program that people can subscribe to, and they learn basic tips about wellbeing, high performance, all these sort of different type of things. I don't really know where it's going to get to. It's really early days, but I know it'll be somewhere in that space. I really enjoy the leadership and culture space as well, and sort of helping people grow as a group and grow the connection, and I suppose get the best out of themselves. So yeah, I've got a lot of ideas written down that I'm sort of working towards behind the scenes, and hopefully next year or two something eventuates from that.
Watch this space. I'm very excited for that. Moving past this, earlier you touched on mentors. I know you've had some rippers, as you said, Jamo, Michael Jamison, Chris Judd, Mark Murphy, to name a few. What are the things that you've picked up from these guys? Because I think they're obviously incredible work ethic, talented, but these guys have got, they've got grit, they've got everything. What are the main things they've tried to pass on to you think?
Yeah, I think the mentors, like every single person, you take bits and pieces from in a different way. And I've had so many people influence me throughout my life. Like Jamo, when I first got to the club, he was one that really took me in, and in off-field point of view, he really helped me. Like I used to hate public speaking. Like I was shocking, mate. Like if you heard me talk, I was like a two-stroke motor with a choke on. Like I could not get a word out. So he actually really helped me in that sort of space. He used to sit down and do like mock interviews with me. Just like I suppose he just helped me adjust to life from being just a general country kid coming to Melbourne to you get a kick and then you start getting recognised, and something I really struggled with at the start. So he helped me with that, and he's still someone I'm talked to all the time now. He's a legend, as you'd know. Then you got someone like Juddy, who's like, I just idolised him growing up as a massive Eagles fan. Like they were just the kings of the AFL, but kings of WA. And he gave me about 20 minutes the first day we got there. I remember him sitting down in the locker room and gave me 20 minutes, and I was just like, how good is this? Like I was starstruck. But he's someone, he just, from a footy point of view, he helped me with my standards, and I suppose set little goals for me, and we used to catch up, I suppose once a month for brekkie, and he would just check in how I'm going. Used to touch with him, and then he just observe what he does, like his habits and how disciplined he was. And then someone like Murph, I got so much appreciation for Murph and what he went through in his time as captain, and just like his loyalty. Like I think like he's first and foremost, he's an absolute superstar player, and like you just got to look at his years before I got there, how good, like he was the number one player in the comp there for a long time, and even when I was there, like he's someone that I love playing with because we really complemented each other playing in the midfield because he could run, he was skillful. But even like his leadership, like he just ability to stay positive, be grateful for the opportunity, but just keep sticking it out. And I've bounced a lot of ideas off him, and the stuff he says just has a weight to it. Yeah. Then there's obviously off field, like there's like Matt Bain, my manager, like he's I suppose I didn't realise how good managers could be, but he's been a massive mentor for me. And just off field, like I'm really good mates with him now, and I'm sure he's your manager as well. And look, he just put him in front of the right people. He's someone that like we have a good like sort of mate working relationship. So we know when it's time to have fun, when it's time to have serious chats. And he's someone that gives me honest feedback, which I really appreciate. And that's on and off the field. Like he'll say, mate, yeah, you need to improve this area, or you're doing this really well. And he's someone I really value. And obviously your family, your parents, and my partner, mine, like that's sort of a support network. And you don't realise how much they shape you until you reflect, and you start understanding what you like in life. Then you understand the upbringing you have and the people you're around and how they influence your life. So they've all had a massive impact on me, and there's heaps of others. But yeah, you pick pieces from different people, and they just help you with their knowledge.
100%, man, 100%. Back to what you're saying about the standards with Juddy now, because I know that his were very high of what he did, his Pilates, his diet, all these things. But I know yours are just as high. Talk us through some of your diet changes you've had. What's your eating like these days? Everything you put into your body, you're working out what it is, what it's good for you, what it's doing. What are some of those other little nuances that you really break down and really go hard at?
Yeah, I was I probably rolled into the club, as you could confirm back. I was a bit around the gills. But look, it's a good learning curve. Like my first year I floated in footy and probably in the pool as well. I was definitely...
I didn't want to bring it up.
You were going to go there, weren't you?
You were thick. Okay, you were thick.
Yeah, I was a good country boy, you just get where you get in the country. No, it was a really good lesson. Like my first year I floated, I was just probably in awe in the whole system. Like you dream of it, and you get in there, you're like, far out, how good is this? Anyway, first year I had an alright bit. I broke my leg, and I remember I had a DEXA scan in the year, and I was high. And I was like, you know what am I doing? Like I've got to actually make some changes. I remember chatting to Andrew Walker, because he was like one of the most leanest blokes. So he taught me his diet and what he did in the off season, and I went away that first year and just went probably to the extreme, but I'm glad I went to the extreme. Like I hardly ate a carb for 10 weeks. Got a sprints coach, and I think I lost 6 kilos of fat in 10 weeks, and put on like 2 kilos of muscle. So my whole body just changed, and it set my whole year up. But it showed me the importance of like your body's your biggest tool, and you got to look after it. And Rob Wiley actually gave me an analogy. Big Rob, he's a legend, as you would know, and still talk to him quite a bit. But he was talking about a racehorse, and they're 600 to 900 kilos, and they get weighted with jockeys. Like could be a kilo difference, and that could decide the winner over a 3,200 metre race like the Melbourne Cup. He goes, well, you're a 70 to 110 kilo athlete. Depends on your size as a player. If you're carrying extra 1 kilo and you're running 12 to 15 Ks, how much is that going to impact you? And that really just stuck in my brain. Like I was never forget him saying that. So from that, I know with my body shape, like I'll put on weight quick, muscle or fat. So I've got to be really smart about what weight I want to be at and what I eat. So I've got the luxury that if I go to the gym, I can put muscle on quick, but the side effect that if I eat too much, I also blow up as well. So it's just finding that balance. And I know it's just something you keep changing and you find that works for you. Like even last year with my body, I tried to drop a bit of weight with my muscle to try and run better, and I felt like that didn't help me as much as I thought it would. So this year I've gone back to, trying to be strong and really big in the contest and put my weight back on. So you're always trying to find ways to get better. And I think that's the beauty of like everything. You're always trying to find little ways to get better. And I think if you look at Juddy, like he always tried to find ways to get better. I know, like it's interesting. Like he didn't eat avocado or something for
his whole career.
I didn't eat anything over 97% fat free. So you listen to things like that, and there's a reason why he's so good is because he's always trying to find ways to get better. And so they're little things I look at, and diet's a big one.
I think it's a lesson that I've learned a lot in footy, and I didn't learn it at the time, but I've taken into life now. Is you can be told so many things that are good for you, but you've got to work out what's best for you yourself. You said then about the weight situation. You dropped a bit of weight last year. You thought you'd be able to run better, but realistically, your game is being strong. Someone who sticks out in this space for me is Cade Simpson, for example. We always weighed the same amount of weight. I was always focused on putting on muscle. I was like, fuck, I've got to get bigger. Simo will just stay the same size. He knew what was good for him. And it took me to like my last year in footy to realise, mate, like you've been this size your whole life. You don't need to get bigger. Like you just need to get strong and be, focus on what you're good at. But it really does take people that long to realise what they need to do. And that's not just in footy, that's in, you know, in work, in life and everything. How much have you learned that now? Thinking like, yes, I can be told a million things, but I need to work out what I will take on board and other things I'll let funnel.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. And like, it doesn't mean that's why you got to try things. Yeah, I mean, like, never be afraid to try something new. And then once you do it, just reflect. You know what I mean? Like, all right, did that work for me? If it did, why? And then I'll keep doing it. If it didn't, then say, look, it's good that I tried it, but it didn't work. And don't be flat that it didn't work. Like, people ask me, are you flat about last year? It's like, no, because I didn't go there. How would I know how good you could get? So, you always got to try and find ways. But that's a big one. I think you got to know yourself. That's the key. Like, you got to know what works for you. Get information. Oh, I'll give this a try. No, it didn't work for me. No, I'll move on and keep going forward in the way I think I can best perform.
Love it, man. I'm excited for your season this year to see what comes of that. Adversity, something that you face a lot of throughout the career, I suppose, being up and down in terms of, you know, being captain at such a young age, team that's not performing but still performing yourself, up and down. A lot of people from the public would look at you and think, fuck, this has been an easy ride, you know, and this guy's come in and, you know, been a high pick, made captain of the club, you know, won BNFs, all these sort of things. How hard is it to deal with that each week? Because I think even looking back and giving more context, you know, you had this career that from the outside had seemed like it just been coming up the whole way. No one had sort of seen the work that had gone into it. And then I think in that 29 season you were saying, I think there was a bit of you're injured and there was a bit of form, and then quickly people had to jump on being like, oh no, what's going on with this bloke now? Why isn't he performing? How have you sort of dealt with that adversity?
Yeah, it's a good point. There's always going to be challenges thrown at you, and I think the first bit's just like getting used to I suppose being in the public eye. I found that really tough at the start, but that's where the beauty of you chat to people and I know, just people there to help. And then it has been tough, and I'm a big believer that like adversity builds your character. You know what I mean? Like the things that you go through that are really challenging, once you come out of them, like it really builds resilience in your character. I've been through certain things, and like mine on a life scale compared to other people's is minor. You know what I mean? Like this is all footy stuff. But like you know, injuries, like I've broken my leg 3 times. Probably because I don't have a calf muscle. Like losing like a lot when we're in a winning business, and you try and do everything right to get a club going forward. Then when you form, like last year my form wasn't the best that I wanted, but one thing, like I said before, you reflect, you learn, and you grow. And even last year, like I didn't have my best year, but I hang my hat on that I had a crack every week, and that's all you can ask for. And that I'd go to sleep at night after a game that, you know, I gave them my best effort. I always give my best effort. Once the game finishes, you obviously sometimes going to be frustrated the way you play, but you move on. And that's like the identity thing I said. What I really learned from that Ben Crowe thing is me as a person is so different to me as a footballer. So once I know that I leave the field and I've given my all, that's me as a footballer done, that it's not going to change me as a person. And that's really helped me to really just keep balancing my life and stick true to who I am. And it also allows me to, when I do go on the field, I can play with aggression and that, and play on the edge and play my way, knowing that's not actually me as a person, if that sort of makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. So, separating the person from the persona.
Yeah, exactly.
How old were you when you became captain?
I think I was 23. What was it, 20? Yeah, I think I was 23, turning 24. Yeah.
It's pretty young. What have you learnt from leadership when you first became captain to now? What have been the biggest changes?
Yeah, there's been a lot. I think same thing, learn a lot more about myself. I think when you're captain at a young age, the hardest thing is setting the standard, but still, I suppose, you still want to be close to the group. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to turn into this policeman-like person and say, what are you doing going out in the piss? You know what I mean? Like what's he saying? You don't never want that. Like when you're a player, you don't want someone looking over your shoulder saying, what are you doing? Like you want to set the standard, and there's going to be times when people mess up and you got to square them up and say, mate, that's not helping us or you. But I think the biggest thing is building relationships, having sort of care and empathy for people, like, and sort of knowing that everyone's a bit different. You know what I mean? Like not everyone's going to be like me. And what I do is not going to be what other people do. So you can't get frustrated if you see other people doing things. You try and help them as much as possible, but you also got appreciation for who they are. And then like just working with Doc, like I think we both grown. The leadership group we've got at the moment, it's a really good group. I'm really enjoying it. Like we've got a mix between young and old, and me and Doc sort of in the middle, all very different. And I'm actually loving it at the moment. Like it's very good fun, the leadership meetings. But I think that having care and empathy for people, and knowing that you got their back, and no matter what they're going through, you're there for them.
Last point on this, I suppose, and there's no hiding this fact, but you're obviously one of the biggest players in Melbourne. It's not part of your nature to be, like on social media. You're not like a loud person. How have you dealt with that? Because you're a big boy too. As you're growing every year.
Big for a midfielder.
Big for a midfielder. It's hard to miss you out in social circles. That must weigh on you a bit. You've seen like how many players these days are moving interstate. A lot of players going to Sydney to get away from it. Like how do you deal with that? Does it play on your mind? Is it annoying? Is it hard?
Oh, like it has its challenges. Not gonna lie. I struggled. Like I've said it before. I struggled a lot with it early in my career, just because I wasn't like it's 19, 20. I just felt like I was a normal 18-year-old, but people external put you up on this pedestal, and I'm just like, that's just not me. You know what I mean? I don't want to be there. I just want to go to the pub and have a beer with the boys. I just want to have a beer and talk to them. So it took me a while to get used to it, but I'll use another thing. So Juddy once said to me, he goes, look, because I asked him about it, I was like, how'd you deal with it? Like, you're in Perth, that's like a fishbowl, and you're like the biggest dog in the AFL. Like, I'm nowhere near your level, but like, how'd you deal with it? And he's just like, well, the way I looked at it is like, can be not as good as I am, and just play any league I want, and just blend in, or I can love what I do, be the best I can, and with that comes the recognition, and I just got to learn to deal with it. And I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good point. Yeah, makes sense. So from that, I changed my mindset around and said, you know what,
take it as it's a blessing. Really.
Yeah, like instead of neglecting and not wanting it, to say, look, it's going to come. Try and treat people with as much respect you can, and at the same time, learn the places you can go to, have a really good mates around you, and never get caught up in the hype of the external stuff, like people putting you up. Back to the identity thing, like they see you as this footy player, they put you up, but at the end of the day, I'm just Patrick Cripps, who grew up in Northampton from a country town. I love my mates, love my family, and enjoy having a beer with them. And I just don't see myself as any different to that. And that's sort of helped me really, I suppose, stay true to who I am and stay level-headed. And that's even around the club now. I've got so many good people that I just love mixing with and hanging out with. And you can just be yourself around, which I love. Before
we go, I've got a couple tidbits for you. I really like that word, I want to use it. Big pre-season that's just happened. I need a tip for round one. Who's going to win?
Out of us and
you and the Tigers,
mate, I'm very confident backer. Yeah. Good. Coming in.
I was very confident going into round one once. I had 3 touches. So I'm just saying that. Look.
Hey, you got to back yourself. It's actually the funniest thing. It's quite funny, backer. Yeah.
No, it wasn't at the time.
I just hope there's crowds there, mate, to be honest.
Yeah, I know.
I want as many people there cheering. That's something I miss. But we'll back ourselves in. Obviously, got a lot of respect for them, for Richmond and what they've done. But yeah, we'll have a red hot cracker for sure. Just
on this as well, and this wasn't actually going to be brought up, but you see the game trends going right at the moment, okay? And I love this space now, because you looked at Hawthorn, it was like a kicking game. Collingwood was that boundary game. Richmond's come forward pressure game. And Clarko was in a couple of weeks ago and spoke about, when you want to be good, you've got to actually not try and do what the best teams are doing. You've got to actually make up the next thing. Where do you think the game's going next? Like, what's going to be the next game style that takes off, do you think?
Well, hopefully ours.
Yeah. Without giving away too much, I feel, I don't know if you can answer this, but I feel it's going to be a bit more of a kicking game, because if there's so much pressure, you want to then go back to taking the ball off people, but you would know a lot more about it.
Yeah. Look, you never know. I think what the AFL are trying to do is increase scoring. So I think the game's going to get a lot quicker. I think it's going to be better to watch. Like I know we're going to play a really attacking brand with the players we got in and the talent we have. So, I think I hoped I want to see as a fan, like take myself out of the way as a player. I want to see more scoring and just more excitement. But I think the game's gonna really speed up and it'll be good to watch. So in terms of the game style, I don't think there's gonna be a certain way that's gonna
just quick.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a balance. But I sort of love like when you play. Like from watching, because I haven't played any finals, I just love when finals end the day gets back to, one-on-ones, winning a contest. So like I think when we get one-on-ones inside forward 50 with the guys we got down there are going to be really important. But I just love the contest, and that's why I love watching finals footy, and that's why I want to play it so bad is just in the contest. And you just love seeing people stand up in big moments.
100%. I haven't even thought about this as well, but the fact of that rule change with the man on the mark now, how much is that going to change that inside 45 kick? Like you got blokes like Zach Williams, Sard being able to just rip them through the corridor. For people who don't know, obviously you could move along the mark. You used to be able to actually sit in the 45.
Yeah.
It's going to be nearly undefendable.
Yeah, I think you got to give something up. Like I'm interested to see what it's like. I think it's going to quicken the game up a lot because like someone like wraps around the back for a hand or a save. Sometimes you just hand over and you just go on the mark and that guy takes him. Like you're not allowed to do it anymore.
So what, you have to stay on the mark?
Yeah. So once you taking the mark, I come up to you and as umpire says stand and I can't move until he calls play on. Yeah.
Far out. So it's going to be a fair few.
Yeah. So like guys that are like quick and like guys like Murph, Fish, Sard, Williams, even Walshy, the guys that are real dynamic and just creative and just make it up. I reckon it's going to be exciting to watch players like that.
Definitely. I think so. Watch this space.
Cripps.
Crippa. Yeah. I think we learned early days that sidestepping is not one of your best assets.
I go straight through them, mate.
Okay, good. List management. This year, obviously, Sard, all these guys came in. How much impact do you have in that play? Now, I think, obviously, that's their role, but do they consult you about these things? Like, do you have a say and say, yeah, I want this guy, or nah, I'd rather pass?
I suppose they come to you, but the same thing, you back them in. Like they're the expert in their field, so you back them in to do what they do. It doesn't mean you don't throw ideas at them because you always want to get better. But then once they say, "Oh, we're interested in this player," they say, "Can you chat to him?" Like I'd 100% chat to him.
Slide in.
Yeah, just in the DMs, G'day guys, Rick here.
How do you go about it? Do you get their number? You call them or just slide in, or just snap them?
Yeah,
just selfie snap.
Snap him, shirt off, say boys. Come the bag, is that?
Yeah, I've been getting these real weird Snapchats from Patrick Cripps, man. It's fucking weird. He just keeps saying, come to the bag.
Yeah, it's a true story. That's how Sardi came.
That's how you got it. Yeah, right. There you go. Everyone's snide into the Snapchats. Okay, 2 bits here. Who's the most difficult opponent you've ever had?
I think like the tag. The tag is that. Like Matty DeBoer's really good, just discipline. But like I love that because
just a one-on-one.
Yeah, it's like all right, it's me versus him, and then it's a good way to reflect on your game and like review it because he's going to make you better because like he got me in 2019, and it's like all right, how do I then change my game next time I play him so I can be better? And I might not necessarily get as much of the ball as I would in other games because he's that disciplined. But how can I manoeuvre things around a stoppage to
take him to another person
or to make us then get the leg up and win the clearance, which I felt like last year when we played him, I didn't have my best game, but I felt like around stoppages we were able to do that, which was good. Ben Jacobs was another one. I had him in 2019 down at Hobart. He's really disciplined, a bit like the Matt DeBoer mould. He was good. A player I really love playing against is Jack Steele. He's just really good at. He's just a good, honest player.
Also does his own thing.
And he gets the ball, you know what I mean? So I've got a lot of respect for his game.
Is that even worse though when you're playing guys tagging you and then they're running and getting their own kicks? Because you can, if someone's staying with you the whole time and they're not really doing much, it's okay. But if someone's playing on you and then obviously going kicking goals, getting stats too, you're like, well, fuck, I've got to tighten up here as well. Yeah,
like as a tag, you always want to make the player accountable. Same thing when you get in tag, you rolls to beat them. So
yeah.
I think every week you try and have a player that you try and match up on to beat them, and that's sort of like the battle within the battle. I enjoy that.
All right, speaking of that, who's your bunny?
Nah, I'm not doing.
Come
I'm
on,
not
you've
going down
got
this
it.
far. Nah.
You've got to give us one. Maybe even who's your bunny at training then in the club? Who do you love just coming to you at stuff as you're training?
Ed Kerno.
Yeah.
Nah, I just did that to stir him up.
Okay, fantastic. You're too modest to say that. Last but not least, have you had any good coach sprays in your career? How does Teague go? Does he rip any?
Yeah, I've had a few off Teague. We actually got a ripper in the last round against Brisbane last year, the midfield group. I think I had to sanitise the face, all the midfielders after that. Nah, Teague's given a few, Bolts has given me everyone, you always get a spray here and there. It's part and parcel of the gig.
What are they for? Just not defensive running?
Oh, no, never that. Two-way running, that bugger. Nah, I actually remember my first year, I was late to a meeting and Rob Wiley gave me a good spray. I got stuck at a train line in Essendon. Do you know the one? I think is it Puckle Street?
Yeah.
Got stuck there for like 10 minutes, like train over train. I rocked up 2 minutes late, walked into the theatre. Anyway, I thought I was like off the hook. Meeting ended. Rob's like, everyone sit down. And then he just sprayed me. I'll never ever be late after that again, eh? But yeah, that's probably the biggest spray I've got, I reckon.
We like it. There's nothing worse than being late. Mate, to finish up, two-part question. How important is the goal of winning a flag for you? And then I suppose in saying that as well, what's next?
Oh, look, I want to win one. Like I want to play finals. I want to win one without a doubt. And I think we're starting to get a real good list profile that we can really attack that. But also, like you said before, the process of building there from the ground up to that is enjoyable. Like I really enjoy like day to day going to the club trying to get better. So I want to get there, but I'm not losing sight of the fact that there's a lot of hard work to get there and to have fun getting there as well. That sort of makes sense. What's next? Things that we've been talking about, like just really excited for this season, buzzing, really excited to lead this group with Doc and try and achieve as much as we can this year and beyond. And just keep growing off field and to come to this podcast a few times with Dylan friends, number one in the nation. No, that's about it, mate. Life's good at the moment, so
Fantastic, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Second time. Can't thank you enough. I'm super excited for a big year for yourself, mate. It's an honour to have you on, as I said. And I think just today just sums up, mate, as you as a person, as you said, setting that persona away from the person. As good as you are as a player, you're an even better bloke. Should be extremely proud of what you've been able to achieve thus far. And I'm very excited for what's next. So I'm just honoured to call you a friend, and thanks again for your time.
Thanks for having me back on. It's from afar seeing what you're doing as well is inspiring. So keep it up, big fella.
And to finish, mate, it's been real. It's been good. It just hasn't been real good.
How's that, eh? Still using it. I like it.
This episode of the Dylan Friends podcast is brought to you by Dr. V Energy. Alrighty, my friends, I want to let you in on a little secret that's been keeping my body feeling bloody fantastic throughout the week. It's Dr. V energy drinks. After a big gym session or after I let my hair down on the weekend with a few friends having a couple of cordials, I drink Dr. V Energy Bender Mender to help me recover, bounce back, and get back to performing at my best. I'm telling you now, there is no artificial ingredients in sight. It's 100% natural and made with wild herbs and berries that have been used for centuries to heal and protect the liver and kidneys. The ingredients are even hand-picked from a Siberian forest, I kid you not. You do not get more wholesome than this, my friends. Bender Mender is available at Easy Marts, independent IGAs, or online at www.drv.com.au. Use the promo code #DylanFriends for 15% off the online store. So be better and drink Dr. V with me.